Um, I have really no clue. Charter school might be something that's like private to a point that like focuses on something. I have no idea.
I would say it's like a school where it's like standards are different than like a normal public school. Like for example, South Carolina has Common Core, and it'd just be like a school that doesn't have Common Core, like it doesn't have to abide by Common Core.
A charter school is funded by the government, but it's owned privately. Like somebody else owns it and runs it.
So I think charter schools are, they're not as much of a status quo curriculum, and they kind of fit the needs of students and make sure that the students are getting individually what they need. And I believe smaller classes that allow the students to have a better, more individualized, more individual attention, just a better learning environment overall.
Our high school would send people to like a governor school, but that'd be the closest thing. And I know a few people who did that, but I don't know any people who technically attended a true charter school.
I have no experiences with charter schools whatsoever.
Yeah, so I have several friends who went to charter schools in high school in the Greenville area, and as far as I know, it was positive in their life, and they really carry themselves well. They're in a lot of ways light years ahead of other students when we arrived at college, and it seemed to prepare them for college on a very high level.
No, I've never had any experience with charter schools, or I've never known anybody that's went to a charter school. Charter schools are unique, and they can fit the curriculum to meet the needs of their children, and they can also do different things that public schools can't normally do, and they can change things that normally public schools can't do.
They're different from public schools just because, like I said earlier in the first question, like they abide by a different standard. And private school, probably a lot cheaper than private schools. So, yeah.
Charter schools aren't public schools, but they're not private schools either.
So I think the biggest reason that someone would choose a private or a charter school over a public school would just be, I think, typically of a smaller class size and more individual attention, and also, again, not necessarily having a state-based curriculum that kind of limits their child, but a curriculum that can be based on their needs and really maximize their efforts.
They probably think that their children are getting a better education because it's not in the public school system.
I think charter schools are a great way for parents who don't necessarily want their kids to be in an average environment to really raise the expectation level of their child and give them the opportunity to do the absolute best before going to college.
Probably because like they agree with the standards of the charter school. So like, I mean, I'm sure they like look up about a charter school before they like send their kids there. Like most public schools, where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you live close to this, so you'll go there.
I think that parents choose charter schools or private schools over public schools is because public schools can't filter in and out the children that go there, and they don't also always necessarily run the way that parents do, and they don't always necessarily like the children or the families that are put in the public schools, so they choose to send them to a different school to get them a better education or an education that's more fit to what they believe in.
With the way things are going and some of the more standardized testing, standardized curriculums, I think it's definitely a possibility, and I know that depending on the area and geographic location I might live in, it'd be very possible for me to want to send my child to a charter school.
I believe that charter schools will become more popular or could become more popular because parents are losing trust in the public education system, so they're going to start finding alternative schools to send their kids to get a better education.
I would say no, just because it's going to be a cost a fortune to send their kids to private schools and charter schools, and that's not really where this country's going.
I think it'll probably be the same it is now, because like you don't really hear about many charter schools, or at least around like where I lived. So it wasn't like a big deal. So I don't really know for sure to say.
So, based on the responses that we got from all the people we interviewed, there's not really a clear understanding of what a charter school is. A lot of people like to put it in the same category as a private school, and me personally, like, I thought it was a type of a private school. So, I guess it's just really not like a popular thing for parents to choose for their kids.
The people that we interviewed had a hard time differentiating between what a charter school was and what made it different from a private school or a public school. They had a hard time knowing that it's actually government funded, and so therefore it is technically deemed a public school, but they are able to cater to the child's needs.
And with that said, like, I think that parents should keep an open mind to charter schools and look more into putting their kids in charter schools, because since they do cater to a certain child's needs, like this would be a really great school to put a child with learning disabilities or like who has trouble in school in general, like to be put in this school where they're focused on like on their needs and what they need to learn individually.
From the people we interviewed for this assignment, they had a clear understanding of how a charter school might work, but for some reason they didn't put that working with the connection of a charter school. They didn't have any like specific experiences with a charter school, so therefore they didn't really know what it was.